The big news out of politics this week, Governor Rick Perry, formerly of Texas, calling it quits on the campaign trail. He's the first Republican to bow out of the very crowded race.
This is a brand new poll shows Jeb Bush and Scott Walker losing ground in Iowa.
So what does it all mean for 2016, and who could be the next to go? Here to weigh in is the host of Fox News Sunday, Chris Wallace. Chris, we don't want to put you on the spot to call who's going to be the next person to drop out. But look, money is tight right now, and if Donald Trump is sucking up the oxygen in the room and Governor Perry, a three-term governor, has to drop out, it's going to be somebody else going soon, right?
Well, look, anybody can stay in as long as they want to. I mean, all you have to do is be able to buy a coach seat out to Des Moines or up to Manchester, New Hampshire. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to drop out. I'll tell you who I think is in some trouble, whether they drop out or not. One is Scott Walker, who you mentioned. In July, he was at 18% in Iowa, and he was the front runner. He was the guy from the neighboring state of Wisconsin who had made a very impressive speech in January and had led the polls for months in Iowa and was one of in the top tier with Rubio and Bush. He's now at 3% in Iowa, and I think 9th or 10th place. And if he can't win in his backyard of Iowa, he's in real trouble. Wow. And interestingly enough, this week, he has canceled speeches that were planned in Michigan and California, hunkering down, doubling down in Iowa and South Carolina. So he's not out of the race, but he's kind of constricting his field. Another person in real trouble, Rand Paul, and I think it's really the world has changed on him with the threats from ISIS and other foreign entities. His more libertarian, less hawkish approach to foreign policy just isn't sitting very well with the Republican electorate.
Well, the establishment hates him more than they hate Trump. What happened to Scott Walker, do you think?
You know, I think to a certain degree, he's been a one-trick pony, and that was a very impressive trick the first time around. The idea he had fought for conservative principles, he'd taken on the unions, and he'd won, and I think people liked that, but he didn't seem to have much to follow it up with. And he's also had a few stumbles where it looks like he might not be quite ready for primetime. I'm not ruling him out of the race at all, but he's clearly in some trouble right now.
And you say all you have to do is have money for a coach seat, but I mean, really, it is a lot more than that. Governor Perry ran into problems when his money started to dry up and his staffers were having to volunteer. So then there's this pro-Perry super PAC that raises $17 million, and they reportedly have about $12 million left, and it could even go back to the donors, or it could go to another candidate or another cause. What do you think is going to happen to that money and his support? And as the field, gets whittled down, where will the support and the money start flowing?
Well, let's be clear. When we say Anna is being whittled down, we still have 16 candidates in the race, so right. it's not like we are down to the final four. I suspect his money will go back to donors. When people have contributed to a super PAC for Rick Perry, I don't know that they want those hundreds of thousands of dollars to be going someplace else. I mean, I don't mean to be cruel about it. I don't think it matters where Rick Perry's support goes. He was polling at about 1%, so I'm not sure that if he said, I want to support candidate X, it would mean a whole lot to him. But really, I mean, look, you've got people like Jim Gilmore, who's not even at 1%, isn't going to be on the stage even in the early CNN debate. He's still in the race. So, I mean, you can be in the race, but that doesn't, all that means, as I say, is that you can show up at candidates' forums or show up, at some kind of town hall somewhere around the country. It doesn't mean that you're really a credible candidate.
Who do you have coming up on the big show?
Well, we have a very credible candidate, and that's John Kasich, who's been flying under the radar, staying out of the Trump food fight. But he's now up into double digits at, I think, 11% in second place in New Hampshire. And his kind of blend of practical, compassionate conservatism really seems to be taking hold there. He, of course, is the two-term governor of Ohio, spent a dozen years or so in Congress, helped balance the budget in the 90s. We'll be talking to him at the top of the hour. And then that continuing humanitarian crisis with refugees. And this week, increasing pressure on the U.S. to do more. To give you a sense, I think 20,000, 30,000 refugees expected in Germany just this weekend. So far, the U.S. has taken in 1,500 Syrian refugees in 4 years. Obama says now he's going to bring in 10,000 in the next year. We'll be talking to two Senate leaders about, do we need to do more? And also, can we do it without potentially allowing terrorists into this country?
Fox News Sunday. Check your local listings for Chris Wallace's show. Chris, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.